Whenever the name Bob Munro is mentioned, what quickly comes to mind is the Mathare United Sports Association, or simply MYSA, the body he founded in 1977 and which birthed the Mathare United Football Club, producing many top footballers in Kenya, including Dennis Oliech. However, unbeknownst to many, the Canadian has had a decorated work history with some of the world's leading organizations, such as World Commission on Environment Development and even the United Nations. And as Zita Jimoi now reports or recounts in this special report he did a few weeks ago, Uncle Bob, as he was fondly known, is hailed for revolutionizing Kenyan football, which earned him the moniker Father of KPL. But his achievements aside, Kenya seemed to have forgotten Uncle Bob, a man who gave so much, living in this country for over 35 years. Let's take a look.
The story of Bob Munro is long, winding and beautiful. From Canada, his country of birth, to Kenya, a place that has become his second home, he has seen and experienced it all.
I'm not here by accident. I'm here because I've spent a lot of my life working for Kenya even before I moved here.
But what many do not know is that Bob has worked in the development sector for nearly 15 years until he and his wife decided to relocate permanently to Kenya, where he came up with the idea of opening a sports and development initiative, and in the process formed the new famous Mathare Youth Sport Association that was in 1987, which gave birth to Mathare United Football Club 7 years later.
In 87, August, I'm watching these kids playing and I'm thinking, why shouldn't these kids get the same chances I had as a kid to play real sports with real coaches, with real referees, with real equipment? And that's how MYSA started and why it started.
MYSA is unique in that its entire leadership structure is made up of young people. Each zone in Mathare elects a chairman and vice chairman from among the young players.
It's owned and managed by the youth. And that's why it still exists today, is that it doesn't depend on a founder or one person. If the chairman is male, the vice chairman is female. And the following year, it's the other way around.
Since most of the families in Mathare were led by single mothers with few leadership opportunities for the youth, Bob found it fit to have a youth-led league and therefore established the Mathare Youth Sports Association, which benefited most girls and boys.
Ilikuwa kila weekend lazima kukuwa na hii ligi ya MYSA, kulikuwa na ligi ya MYSA. So like kila weekend, hata sometimes ilikuwa zota midweek, unakuta uko busy. Kulikuwa na hizi community services lazima zifanywe. So ilikuwa inatoka kwa mtaa, inatoka pamoja, inatoka out of drugs.
Nilianza na MYSA, imenitoa kwa streets, kitu ya kwanza. Na mambo ya pili ni kumekuwa na tona ligi ya MYSA. Nimecheza nikiwa kuanzia nikiwa 8.
Some of whom went on to Norway for the first time just to play football, and this opened up the floodgates of opportunities.
Kwenda Norway hiyo time tukiwa wadogo wales, kupanda ndege, kupata na walami, mchezeo tona. Hiyo time tulikuwa deadly mbaya sana. Tulienda huko tulitoka unbeaten by the way.
Watu wengi huku mtaa wamepanda ndege juu yake. Wacha niseme tu hivyo. Maybe nikisema hivyo maybe naweza kuwa maybe na exaggerate, but ni fact. So watu wengi sana wamepata passport juu yake, watu wengi wametravel Europe juu yake. So ni jamaa, cause nakumbuka safari ya kwanza ilikuwa ni ya 1990. So nataka imagine kutoka time mpaka sasa bado watu travel.
He has not only fostered young leaders but inspired them to change their communities for the better.
If you look at the Premier League clubs, I can tell you 90% of the 18 teams in the Premier League clubs, each and every team has a player from MYSA and Mathare United. Most of the coaches, the other day we were looking and you'll find that almost half of the coaches who are in the Premier League club and quite a number in NSL are from MYSA and Mathare United. There's no corner of this country you can go and you'll find that you won't get an alumni.
When Mathare United was relegated to the National Super League at the end of the last term, with questions of match fixing hovering over the team's head, it hit him hard. He says, in fact, his terms, this is his lowest moment, insisting match fixing should be criminalized.
But it was a disappointment particularly because we were largely relegated because 2 veteran players, one a central defender and the other a key midfielder and assistant captain. Like in Europe, we need to criminalize. In Europe, if you're a referee or a player or anyone, who fixes matches, you go to jail for 3 to 5 years. We just need to change our laws, and there's lots of examples in Europe of how you change them.
His act of bravery leaving his native Canada, a country with functional systems and robust society structure, to settle in Kenya was God sent to the kids of Mathare, as it helped transform their lives through MYSA.
The number of youth who have said that to me, if it wasn't for you, I'd be dead. Yeah. I said, what do you mean? All the kids I went to primary school with, those who weren't in MYSA, they're all dead.
Bob and his wife Ingrid have 5 kids and 7 grandchildren, but in an ironic twist, his application for the Kenyan citizenship has never seen the light of day for a man who has given so much more.
Ingrid and I have lived half our life outside of Kenya and half our life inside Kenya. And so where's home? Home is where your family is, and our family is in Kenya. It was an advantage for a while, because in FKF you have to be a Kenyan citizen to become the president. Now, I was fighting corruption and that, and it's very easy for them to say, he wants to become the president of FKF. So not being a citizen was an advantage in that they couldn't assume I had ulterior motives, that whatever I did, they had to take it for its face value.
Bob moved to Kenya 39 years ago, and he has transformed a lot of lives through MYSA. And more than a half of his family are Kenyan citizens. Surely, Bob deserves to be a Kenyan citizen as well.
I'll die in this country, and I'd like to die as a Kenyan citizen.
Now at the twilight of his life, Munro has lately been ailing. He has in the last few months undergone 3 surgeries at the city hospital, but he bore it all with grace and is on a recovery path.
I had some challenges last October. And it was clear I needed some operations to deal with those challenges. But I'm stable, but I have a very low level of energy. My hemoglobin levels are way down, which means oxygen is not getting into my bloodstream, into my muscles. And so I have some mobility issues.
Looking back, he is full of the praises of the progress made in the Kenyan Premier League and urged the leaders to return the Kenyan game to its former glory.
In 2010, 2012, 2013, 2014, the Kenyan Premier League was the most admired league, one of the most admired leagues in Africa, for being corruption-free, for competitiveness, fair play and sportsmanship, and excitement. And it was owned and run by the clubs. And frankly, we need to go back to the future and reestablish KPL and the Premier League as owned and run by the clubs as it was before, and get back to the stature we had in Africa before.
Reporting for Sport Monday, I am Zita Jimoi.